away we go. So I'll do the first introduction. My name is Savannah Parison. I am the lead student, as in like I advise students, but I'm the lead staff advisor at CCS. And my colleague Megan is the other advisor. Go ahead, Megan.
Sorry, my gardeners just got here and it's very loud next to my window. But hello, I'm Megan. I'm going to try and get my Bluetooth headphones to work. I'm the other staff advisor. It's great to see y'all.
Savannah, I think I'm muted.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say we have a number of students here, so they're probably all staring at each other trying to figure out who's going to go first. But if you guys want to go in like alphabetical order by first name, that will probably work.
I think that means I'm first. Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm a third-year computing and math major, and yeah, glad you're all here.
Hi, my name is Isabella, and I'm a second-year physics major.
My name is Kat, pronouns are he and she, her. I'm a third-year writing and literature major.
I'm Michelle. I am a fourth-year biology major. My pronouns are she, hers, and I also am one of the student assistants answering emails for the info account. So if you've emailed them, you might have heard back from me.
Should it be me or should it be Thea? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm speaking anyway. Hello, everybody. I am Richard. I'm a third-year physics major. I'm an international student from China, and glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Thea. I'm a second-year biochem major, and it's great to see you all.
All right, thanks for the introductions, everybody. We are going to get started with our first question, which is kind of a big one. I mean, it really kind of jumps to the end of this process, I think. But for all of you, and not everyone has to answer, but just in general, what is it that made you choose to come to CCS? You know, at one point you were a high school student and you'd gotten your acceptance to CCS and you were trying to figure out, you know, CCS versus a number of other institutions maybe where you were accepted. What is it that made you feel like CCS was going to be the right choice for you?
Yeah, I can start off with this question. So when I was a senior, and around this time of the year in April, I was visiting a lot of the UC schools where I was also accepted. And one thing that stood out to me was that when I was at the other UCs, I was just part of their basic campus tours. I was being guided around by a tour guide and like a group of 20 people just being shown a lot of different buildings on campus. But when I came to UCSB and visited CCS, I was able to meet with CCS biology faculty and also a lot of current students. And that like personal one-on-one interactions was really awesome and something I wasn't able to get at the other schools. And that kind of close community that I felt from my visit has like continued on throughout my last 4 years at UCSB and CCS. And that's something I find really awesome about the program.
So the reason that I decided to go to CCS was that a lot of it started, I think that I found out about CCS by random, just by chance. And I had realized by the time that like I was applying that out of all the schools that I was applying to, this one kind of matched up best like to what I want to do in the future. Like I knew that like being in CCS would be able to prepare me like not only academically but like all the other like facets of being able to like go into the world and like do science the way you want to, or do whatever your major is the way you want to. And then when I visited, everyone was everyone was very friendly, and like there's like this layer of uh like you want to be at a school that like makes you happy. And if like I guess for me that was like a very important part of my decision, was that this school that I chose had to not only be good for me academically, but like be good for me like and my happiness and my like well-being.
So when I was looking at colleges or like touring them, I guess in my senior year, I'd applied to UCs and as well as a lot of private schools. I specifically wanted like a smaller kind of environment, I think, with a more close-knit community. So CCS kind of checked that box, but within a larger campus that also had more expansive like UC resources and connections as well. So I thought that was really great. And on top of that, I was really drawn to the kind of like flexible way that a lot of the majors are kind of made. They're a lot more tailored towards what the students want to do versus like you have to check, like a box of like, oh, you have to click this prereq. I mean, we still have prereqs in a lot of ways, but it's a lot more flexible, and advisors are a lot more willing to talk about like trying other things. So that was something I was really interested in. And then finally, kind of off of Michelle said, it was just a different environment. So when I actually visited the campus, I visited during the only time I could with my parents, which was during our spring break, which happened to line up with the UC spring break. So like nobody was there because it was just the beginning. So like everyone had just left. But we were just wandering outside the CCS building, and some random CCS student walked out and just started talking to us about CCS, and like because they asked like why we were looking around the building. And so I thought that was really cool because they just stopped out of the middle of I don't know what they were doing, but to tell me all about the program. I think they were an art major or something, like not my major, but still very nice. And I learned a ton from them. So that was another thing. The community just felt very welcoming. Yeah.
Oh, that is classic CCS. Okay, so next question. What is it like to be part of the CCS community?
I can go first on this one. I think like for me, being in the CCS community is kind of like, there's all these people who I would have like never met, just like because they're not in my major, but like it's being part of the CCS community is really like, oddly enough, even though you're more focused in your studies, you get to know more people outside of them. Like I've met so many people who are in STEM, like studying things like muons and physics and like like viruses, and I'm like, I don't know anything that you're talking about, but that's very cool. And like that exposure and getting to kind of think syncretically with other people about ideas is very neat. And I think it's definitely one of the best things about the community, because it's like, oh, they're existing in different worlds, like because the building is so small, like we're all kind of pushed together, and it's a really great chance to learn about their things.
Yeah, I'll go off with what Kat said. So some students choose to have a lot of their circles, like their social circle within CCS, but you can definitely make connections outside of CCS. But just taking the CCS building, for example, it's not the biggest building, but that's also really nice because you get to cross paths with a lot of students within the college as well. It's nice going into the study room and seeing a familiar face and just being able to like start a conversation with them and like check in with them. How are they doing? And they can update you on a project they're working on or some cool class they're taking, and then you can find a cool GE that way. In the reading room, there's often like drafts from writing and literature students just like on the table, so you can just read something they wrote because they like printed out too many copies. In the springtime, there are a lot of senior art shows, and you can just take a walk around the gallery or attend one of their gallery openings. They have really good snacks sometimes, and you can see the art that they've been making for the past 4 years. That's really awesome too. So being part of the CCS community I don't know like all the students in the college. I do know a lot of students in the college, and like throughout all the majors, throughout the years. And we often like just talk about some random, really specific interests that we have. I remember there's like a conversation about goats in Australia or some animal like that. And you find people who also have obscure interests similar to yours. And it's nice kind of having like a home you can be on campus, because between classes, you just visit the CCS building and sit down for a bit and study for a few minutes. You say hi to Megan and Savannah in the front office. You go print things because we have access to a computer lab that gives us unlimited printing. And we're not allowed to print like books, but we can print things for our assignments and other papers. So I really felt like CCS and the building and the people within the building were really a home for me throughout the past 4 years. And that was really awesome.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I think like one really big thing for me was like, because your major is so small, as in like probably under 20 or so people, you're kind of like handed a group of friends, because you end up taking so many quarters of like classes with them, and you end up working with them so much. It's like you're bound to like get to know each other really well. And I'm in my third year now. There's definitely like, I think almost every single person that I met in my first year, like in those classes, I still talk to on a regular basis, or like at least if I met them on the hallway, I definitely like at least say hi. I think that's super awesome.
All right, so our next question, I think we'll do pretty briefly, but just to kind of help elaborate on like what's happened lately, what has it been like to be part of CCS and just in general during the pandemic?
Sure, I can talk about that. So going off with what Daniel was saying, CCS program, all the classes is super small. You're basically handed a group of friends. And because of that, we are very close to other cohorts and also the professor, our advisor. So speaking from my own personal experience, we have 16 of the physics majors, and we're all very close with Dr. Guruswamy, our advisor. And to the point that we'll have occasional extra lectures, and then Dr. Guruswamy will bring pizzas for free to all of us. So that's like definitely one thing we missed during the regular times, and during the pandemic when things all went remote, we really wanted to keep this tight-knit community still going. We as a student missed seeing Dr. Guruswamy, and also she also expressed how she missed seeing us. So just last weekend or 2 weeks ago, I think, she emailed all of us saying, hey, if you guys want to hang out on Zoom, and we can do a Zoom game session, nothing related to physics. And we end up playing Scribbly online. And yeah, all the students won against the teacher. It's a revenge moment. But it was just really great fun seeing everybody socializing together in Zoom setting. And also, professor and students, it's just a really tight community, having fun in general. Yeah, it is hard to keep the community together, but we do try our best because we really appreciate it and we really cherish this community.
I have like a little similar story to that is that so my advisor is Dr. B, and for Valentine's Day, my whole like physics year got together and we made him a Valentine and we emailed it to him. So there's definitely like a sense of like camaraderie between all the like students, because at least specifically in physics, we're like stuck with these people for like quite a long time taking the same classes as them. So like you become quite good friends with them, and so yeah, you do stuff like that.
Kind of to add on to that, I mean, since the pandemic hit like right after like into my freshman year, like we kind of got like 5 months on campus, which like isn't super long. I mean, enough to kind of basically build foundation, and they were like leave, and it was kind of like so definitely transitioning online was tough, but like kind of a similar story. So our we have a Gen Chem class that all biochem chem majors are required to take with Leroy, who's our advisor. And we made like a weekly, we called it chemist tea thing. We would all hop on and like hang out and do work together every week for like the first 2 quarters. So like the community definitely is special, even if it's just the people from your major or from other majors. So yeah, although it's been rough during the pandemic, there have definitely been like highlights.
That's so cute. Chemistry. Wow. Okay, so next question is, do you feel connected to other parts of campus and to other majors in CCS?
Yeah, so I think I touched on this previously, but due to the nature of just the CCS building being kind of like a home base for everyone, you do, and Kat also talked a lot about this and explained it very well, but we do feel very connected throughout different years and across majors. I think something that was super helpful for me was the opportunity to talk to upperclassmen who were also CCS bio majors and also CCS chem biochem majors. They were just not only great friends, but great mentors and gave me a lot of great recommendations for summer programs to look into and advice about courses and just general ways to navigate through my first few years at UCSB and in CCS and being a student. And yeah, it's been good.
I think we had Victoria, I think, slated to talk next, but she's not here. I might have gotten the name wrong. I'm sorry. But that jumps to Isabella, I think, on our lineup.
On the same question or the next question?
I think on the same question, and I mean,
Oh, okay.
I'll just kind of elaborate. Yeah, like, do you feel connected to, you know, other parts of UCSB or other folks in CCS?
I think that a lot of, at least when I started as a freshman, I made a lot of friends in CCS because I was in CCS Housing. And I think that like a lot of my friends from that have like stayed my friends. And I think that I know a lot of people who that wasn't necessarily the case for them. I know a lot who have friends that are outside of CCS. And I know a lot of people who are active in, because there's a lot of clubs that are like associated with CCS, and then there's like clubs that are just like in general like clubs at the university. And on top of that, there's like, I guess the way I would put it is like clubs that are like having to deal with like academics, and then like clubs that are purely for fun. So like I have a friend who's in skating club, and so she met a bunch of friends through the skating club. And then a good friend of mine is in astronomy club, and he loves going out with all the other astronomers and looking at the sky, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of variety of clubs, and there's like a lot of like depth of activity, I guess, because there's like the skating club is like for fun, you skate and you make friends. Like that's the purpose of the club, is to have fun. But then there's something like the EBA, which is like, oh, I think it's Environmental Advisory Board, where it's like their purpose of that organization is to like promote like activism and enact societary like change, which is like, which that might be your jam. You might want to join this club, or you might be like, you know, I just want to relax in my free time. I'm going to join the skating club or something like that. I know that on top of that, there's some professional clubs, I think is the term, that are like specifically for people that want to like pursue a certain profession after college, and they just like gather people of like interests. I don't really know. I think that addressed half of the question. The other, I think that the clubs are like clubs at UCSB are very like helpful, and they're very fun, and a lot of them are very welcoming. I know that there are a lot of activities that are hosted by CCS that are also great. I know I didn't end up going, but there was a Ghibli marathon that I heard was very, very good. I was sad that I couldn't go, and stuff like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like there's a lot of opportunities to get involved with people that are like that have like a similar interest to you at the CCS level and at the UCSB level.
Oh, I can add on to that a little bit. I think like being in like CCS and like the small classes is like you're definitely not confined to just like the CCS community. For me, like as a computing major, a lot of my CS classes end up being in the College of Engineering. So I still get like the College of Engineering experience, and like all the opportunities that are available to COE are also available to me, because like really all you have to do is be on the mailing list. I guess the only thing is you can't have the COE honors, but you know, we already have the priority pastime, so that's not that big of a deal. But you still get like all the networking opportunities. You get to meet other people from other majors, and like you still take GE, so you definitely get those opportunities to branch out just outside of just your CCS class.
Yeah, kind of adding on to that. So, I mean, as a biochem major, so basically you take a Jenkins series and then you kind of split off, and you don't normally take many other classes within CCS specifically, but you're in a lot of classes with a lot of other people. And with the GEs, you get to kind of explore and meet tons of other people. But so I kind of had the opposite experience of Isabella, where I was actually put in Tropicana housing, which is like affiliated housing. It was kind of a weird thing that happened because they had like an overflow my freshman year. But so basically, I didn't know anybody. It was like normal dorm housing. But by happen chance, through going to like random CCS events, like all my friends now are basically CCS people, because you just kind of network and meet people. So I think you can definitely find people within CCS. None of my friends are in my major. They're all other majors. And you can also find people on through other parts of campus. I did rowing. So, I had like a sport, friend group. We did like rowing together, or was with them a lot of hours a week. So I think there's definitely tons of opportunities and ways to integrate different parts of campus into your life.
Yeah. So kind of going off of those questions, do you have time for a personal life as a CCS student? How much free time do you find that you have, and what do you or other people like to do outside of clubs and sports? Really trying to narrow this down.
Yeah, so I think I definitely have time for a personal life. I think everyone it's up to your choice how much time you want to have. You could take on a ton of classes. You could take on a ton of extracurricular activities like clubs, research, and other projects. Or you could just kind of be more laid back and do what you need to do, but also have a lot of time to take a slower quarter. And in my free time, I just hang out with my friends, and sometimes take study breaks and walk on the beach, which is always great. Highly recommend. We also have board game nights and play board games, and this is something that also happens in CCS housing, and that was really great. And we cook together. There's the Ivy Food Co-op in Ivy. I really enjoy going to. They have a lot of good sales, which makes it more affordable because a lot of their things are organic and local. And then you find a lot of cool things there. And I like shopping there, not even to buy things, just walking around the grocery store. But I think there's a lot of things to do. You don't even have to travel far. You could just stay in the area. There are there's like a drive-in movie theater in Galena, which is also like very fun, and you do need a car for that, but that has also something I like doing in my free time. And you can go downtown by taking the bus, as we've said in the chat. But I don't think I went downtown in my first year at all. I just kind of stayed on campus, walked around IB. Yeah.
Yeah, similar to what Michelle was saying, there's a lot of things that you can do in IV if you want to explore it in your free time. And I'm not very, like, I'm more of a home person, I guess. So I typically was just being stuck in my own apartment, doing all the work that I need to do or reading a book and stuff. But if I get bored, there is the beach right out there. And I really enjoy walking along the beach. And it's really beautiful here in Goleta. And it's a great thing that things will be back on campus for a quarter. So we can all have this opportunity again. So the beach is really good. Just taking a walk outside. Other than that, what do I do when I have free time? I also picked up on cooking. So yeah, again, I don't really have anything else going on in my life. So when I'm like kind of stressed about studying or reading books, and I don't want to think about problems at all, I might just go down to Ivy Co-op, buy some groceries, think about or look up a recipe that looks pretty good and also easy to make, and have fun cooking for like an hour or two, and that kind of like is stress relieving as well. And also, I'm also housing with CCS writing literature major. This is kind of going off with the perks of rooming with other CCS majors. And also, I think Kat was talking about this in a bit. You know, sometimes we'll just sit down and have conversation about totally random thing, nothing about physics, nothing about writing literature. We'll talk about like plants and what is this plant doing, and nothing in common whatsoever. But yeah, free time and personal life, definitely there is. And sometimes you have to try your hardest to squeeze it out from your tight schedule. But yeah, it's very doable in CCS. And there is still a lot more fun going on if you choose to find it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like time for a personal life. You can kind of, I definitely don't think like you're pressured to take an absurd amount of thing like that. I've never had a conversation with my advisor that ended off as like, you should take more than you want to take. I think it's definitely up to you. Like you can choose like, if you want to take a harder quarter and then maybe relax a little bit on another quarter, or even like just take the quarter off. Like that's definitely something that you can plan out if you wanted to do that. In terms of what I do with my free time, I visited Richard a week ago and I ate his cooking. It was actually very good. So clearly his practice has been paying off. I also like a lot of the hiking trails near Ivy. I think you do need a car to get to most of them, but there's like Lizard's Mouth Lizard's Mouth is a really popular one. There's also like Cold Spring, Hot Spring, and Montecito. It's like, yeah, these are all like really fun places to go with a lot of friends. And now that restrictions are being lifted, you know, there are definitely more opportunities to explore.
Another thing to add. So something cool that I remembered is there are some good thrift shops in the Goleta area, so really close to Ivy and UCSB, so you can take a bus there. If you don't have like a DVD player, like your laptop, you can buy a DVD player from the thrift shop that works and it's pretty cheap. And then you can go to the UCSB library and check out some DVDs and watch movies with your friends that way. If you don't have them on streaming services, because that's what we did for Ghibli movie night. The Miyazaki movies weren't on any streaming services that we had, so we rented the DVDs from the UCSB library, and that was awesome. That was like great. I was like, wow, I didn't know about this. So then my friend and I, we actually rented Avatar: The Last Airbender DVDs from the UCSB library, and then watched the whole series like right before the COVID pandemic happened. So we finished the series, all thanks to the UCSB library, but now they're on Netflix, so you don't have to do that. But if you have other movies you want to watch, you can do that.
Kind of going off all the outdoor stuff, me and my friends are all very outdoorsy, so we spent like most nights on the beach at sunset playing Frisbee for like hours. That's like where we spent most of our time. In addition to that, kind of going off the trail thing, we explored a lot of trails, but we actually also went backpacking one weekend by ourselves. We actually no one had a car. We took the bus to downtown SB and then got an Uber to the trailhead, and it worked perfectly fine. It wasn't super expensive, so you can always be creative in how you do things. And honestly, just doing stuff like that is like part of the adventure of college, I think. So that's always a ton of fun, and I highly suggest exploring the area. It's so pretty, and there's so much to explore out there.
I think I'll even add in before we move on that I'll put in a plug for the Rec Cen. So the UCSB Recreation Center has like opportunities for students to like sign up for like classes that are like based on kayaking and hiking and like doing all these kinds of sort of adventurous things. I think they even have, you're 18, you can't qualify yet, but they have a wine tasting class. So like they have all kinds of stuff at the Rec Cen that like students can do to just kind of, you know, do something personal and kind of spend some recreation time. So our last question.
I have one thing to add.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Someone mentioned in the chat live music, as well as that the music department will hold like symphonies, and I don't know if it's like by sometimes it's by students, sometimes it's not. Other organizations will come and use the theater that they have, and those are always very, very cool to go and listen to.
I'll even add too, there's because that just made me think of something else. There's the UCSB Arts and Lectures series where like, I mean, honestly, some legit famous people come through that series, and there's always student ticket prices, which are much, much cheaper than community prices. So for some of you music nerds, like there's always, you know, at least one big name. Sometimes it's Wynton Marsalis, sometimes it's Yo-Yo Ma, sometimes it's Itzhak Perlman. So I mean, there's musicians that come through. There's usually at least one like potential presidential candidate that comes through as well. So like Joe Biden came through before he declared candidacy. I do believe that Hillary Clinton did as well, and I think maybe even Obama did way back in the day, but I could be misremembering. But yeah, like there are people who are legit internationally famous, and that like as a UCSB student, you have the ability to like see what they're going to talk about at a much cheaper price than the general public. So anyway, our last question is about housing, and especially about CCS housing, but that's not a requirement. So we'll kind of see what the spread is there on that.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to talk about this one because like I remember my freshman year, like around this time of the year, I was trying to decide where I was going to live, and I was really indecisive between living in the CCS dorm in Pendola and living in a different dorm. And I was convinced by a teacher who I liked in my high school to not live in the CCS dorms because it would create like a chance to have like, you know, friends outside of CCS, which is like a good way to think about it, but like kind of against that advice. Like I would almost say if you plan to hang out in CCS a lot, it's kind of more convenient to live in the CCS dorms, because like I cannot state enough that I basically stayed in Pendola anyway. Like I was there constantly my freshman year, so living somewhere else is kind of like fine, but it's nice if you can just hang out and then like you're not worried about, oh, it's 3 a.m. now I have to go to wherever my dorm is. Like I was lucky that I was nearby, but if you live like across campus, then I know that I had friends my freshman year who just kind of like didn't hang out as much because, you know, the thought of having to cross campus or go into Ivy that late at night is daunting. And it's a lot of times people will like study in Pendola their freshman year and have like their own little events or like movie nights. So it's very nice to be able to hang out and kind of like that way, even though you are likely to be living with people who you're also studying with, it also like perversely enough, because you have a study space that's outside of CCS, you're more likely to like have fun events that are actually not study related, because like you might be studying in the third floor lounge one moment, and then like you'll hear someone start up a movie downstairs in the second floor lounge and like go down there and like watch anime or something. Like because of how the building is laid out, it's very easy to like intermix and get these kind of big social groups going on, which I definitely think is worth considering, especially if you know that you're going to hang out with other CCS people a lot anyway.
I agree. I think that if you want to, I mean, you don't, it's not like it's convenient. I'll say I think that's the best way to use it, because a lot of freshmen CCS end up living in Pendola, and because of that, it's very like convenient to interact with them. I know that at least when my year, there was a large amount of physics students. And so what ended up happening is, like, the night before each of our sets were due, we would all gather in one room. So there was like probably 15 kids in like a room that was probably, yeah, not large enough. But that was like very, very helpful for me, at least, like because it helped me like make friends with a lot of the physics majors. And I mean, it obviously it like helped me like academic wise as well, because it's quite helpful to have like your peers there to like help you, and like you to help them and stuff like that. I think that in some senses, it also helped me at least get to know some of the people that were outside of physics in CCS. Some of the people I probably would have met anyway, because I shared like GEs with them and such, but it definitely helped like springboard friendships.
Yeah, and then something I wanted to add was that Kat mentioned like staying at Pendola really late and then having to go back to like another dorm campus. So that might seem scary, but we actually have a program on campus led by the community service officers, or the CSOs, where you can like call them and they will send like one of their staff members to like, which is usually a student employee, to walk you back to your dorm or wherever you live. It's an IV or somewhere else, like at any time of the night. So that is very safe. I know whenever I had to walk somewhere at night, I often had like friends who would offer to walk with me too. So that's another great part about the community. And also sometimes when I was living in the CCS housing in Padilla, we would go on like printing field trips. Like the night before like one of our chemistry reports were due, we would literally just all go walk to the CCS building in like the middle of the night to print out our reports and then walk back. And then yeah, that was something we did. But I would say the campus is pretty safe.
Quickly address, like I see a lot of people just asking about CCS housing stuff, guaranteed, etc. So for my year, like I said, there was an overflow. I applied for CCS housing, didn't get it. And as I said, I was also placed not even in official housing, but affiliated housing. So when I first got that placement, like that was really worrisome as a first year, because you're just, you kind of have no idea what's going on, and you're kind of relying on like hopefully more of a supportive housing environment mostly, because that's a lot of where you get your information and stuff. So to kind of speak to any worries, I'm here to say that like, although sometimes it can be a little more difficult, it not at all decreased my experience with CCS or like the community CCS or anything else. Firstly, Pendola or whatever the CCS housing may be is always super welcoming. So if you really just want to like spend your life in there, you can. I knew people who did that. I did not, but I know tons of people who did. And secondly, CCS is very good at getting information out, and the CCS building itself is like a little censure for just everything you need to know, and everyone's so helpful. So like you can just go in there anytime, ask questions. People always know what's going on. They send out like, you know, weekly emails with all the stuff going on, stuff you need to know. So you're definitely not going to miss out on anything. You can always be involved in that community if you want to. Everyone will welcome you no matter what, and you're not going to lose anything from not being in the housing. It'll be a different experience, but you're not going to lose something that you might have otherwise had. And I will say, in addition to that, specifically in my experience, I happened to find one or two other CCS people who were actually placed in Trop as well from Overflow, and we ended up all becoming friends, and I hung out in their rooms all the time in Trop. So I had like my own group in Tropicana. So like it's very just kind of however you create your experience.
I want to tack on one thing that hasn't been said, but I thought was a really good point in recruitment last year. So last year we actually had a CCS student who made the point that she deliberately didn't apply to CCS housing because she didn't want it. What she wanted was she wanted to have a roommate who wasn't part of CCS and was part of somewhere else at UCSB, so that she could kind of make some connections outside of CCS. And so, you know, it is what you make of it. It's totally what you want it to be. It's very much, you know, whatever kind of way you want to start off at UCSB, you've got options, and they're all legitimate. There's no like illegitimate bad form of housing. It is absolutely whatever you make of it. We've got some really good questions going in the chat. I think we kind of have been incorporating them into the recording, but I think we're ready to open it up to Q&A as well. So if you would like to ask a question out loud, you totally can. We're going to keep the recording going, but like if Q&A is pretty quiet, we'll just cut off here. But yeah, I just want to, you know, before we get into Q&A, say thank you to all of our panelists. I have really enjoyed listening to your answers, and getting to like hear what it is that kind of made your CCS experience enjoyable. What is, I shouldn't use past tense, but present tense. You know, what it is that you really enjoy about being here and just being kind of a person and a part of our community.